It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Being able to run as he shoots the moon to the fans here in Green Bay.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
He's back.
Here we go. Down from the gun to the end zone. And it's caught. Touchdown.
This is BS Sports.
And welcome in. No Seth in for tonight. He is out working, unfortunately. But a little bit of a more relaxed show this week. It was something of a slow news week this past week, I'd say. Not a whole lot happening. But we got a few things we got to talk about. The NBA All-Star Game happened. We're going to talk about that because that was an atrocity against all things. Michigan State basketball. We're going to talk a little bit about that right now. They're losing to Iowa 4-0 though, so hopefully they can kind of clean it up here. Really don't want to lose to Iowa at home. But anyway, we got a few other things. We want to check in on our Red Wings. Had a road trip there. Started a little rocky. Got back on track. And a certain free agent may not be staying with the team that I thought he was going to stay with in the NFL. But I have to start with this, okay? And this is something of, I don't have a solution exactly. And I've heard a lot of people talking about solutions. I think a lot of people think there's very simplistic solutions. I think this is a lot more complicated, a lot more difficult to figure out. I think it's also a lot deeper of a problem with professional sports in general. The NBA All-Star break happened this past weekend, and nobody cares. I don't care. You probably don't care. And worst of all, the players do not care. And it's not just the NBA. But I'm going to focus a little bit on the NBA to start here. The All-Star Game itself finished with a final score of 211 to 186. That 211, by the way, is the highest by any All-Star team in the history of the All-Star Game, including ABA All-Star Games. So we're dealing with now an All-Star Game, and I just realized I didn't have the TV muted. We're dealing with All-Star Games where defense is really just more of a suggestion. Do you want to play defense? You don't really have to, nor should you, apparently, because you might get yourself hurt, you might get somebody else hurt. It'd be much better and much more beneficial for you to just go out there and lob up half-court shots. Just whatever. Let's see. I'm going to shoot left-handed. I'm Anthony Edwards. I don't need to, go hard. I don't want to have a cool highlight reel or anything like that. And I'm not saying this to disparage any of the players, because the players are making a calculation, right? It's not worth going so super hard on an exhibition game when there's really no benefit to them. And I have Dame Lillard in the thumbnail. He won the All-Star Game MVP because he scored 39 points, which, to be fair, is pretty normal for him on a really good night of his. But the thing about it that bothers me is why are we even doing it if nobody involved cares? I don't know how we got to this point, because it wasn't that long ago that I think, generally speaking, people like the All-Star Game. People liked All-Star Weekend. People liked the three-point contest, the slam dunk competition, any of the skills competitions. Those sorts of things are kind of fun, right? You get to see your favorite players in a bit of an unorthodox environment. Instead of having to take jump shots, they got to pass through some barricades or something. I don't know. Something fun, something a little, you don't have to take it too seriously, but it's a different thing. And across all of the leagues, this is something that has been consistent. Pro Bowl is flag football, and it's not in Hawaii anymore. So that already, and it's before the Super Bowl. So it's like you got layers of that. And that was over several years that happened. It was like, oh, actually, we're gonna not do it in Hawaii anymore. Well, actually, we're gonna do it before the Super Bowl, so that all the players from the Super Bowl teams are not going to be doing anything. And then, we're going to do it flag football now because nobody wants to do contact football anymore. And then, oh my gosh, in the All-Star game for the NHL, I don't know if I didn't watch any of it again because I don't really care. I don't know if any of you watched some of the highlights of the All-Star game for the NHL. You would have thought they got the worst players to show up at the All-Star game. I want to say it was Austin Matthews was one of the clips going around. He just simply did not care. He just, like, straight up, they're doing this, pass it into the thing and blah, whatever. I'm getting paid millions of dollars to hit a puck. I don't need this all-star crap. And it's weird because, like, in the past, like I said, it was something that players, kind of enjoyed, right? Like, I think of, at least in the NBA, I think of Vince Carter in the slam dunk competition. I think of, some of these just classic moments in an all-star game. Like, it just felt like it was something to it. I mean, I think of, like, the players that they were actually trying in the all-star game. Allen Iverson in the all-star game in 2008. I believe he was with the Pistons at that point. I think he was with the Pistons at that point. I don't remember who it was. LeBron James on the all-star game. All the players wanted to play with LeBron. And now it's just like, well, they already kind of know each other, and they don't really value playing with players they ordinarily don't play with, because a lot of them are going to end up just leaving their situation anyway and requesting trades to just join a loaded team anyway. It's like a weird way where we almost have like too many good players in a sense, where it's like the all-stars, it's like, oh, I don't know, Joe Schmo is an all-star. Great, cool. Doesn't even really feel like he deserves it that much. I mean, like Dame Lillard, who's having a good year because he's Damian Lillard, but it's like, is he really an all-star guy? And I know he won the all-star MVP. But nobody cares. I mean, you look at the thumbnail of the show. I know the people who are watching the clip of this are gonna not necessarily understand what I'm talking about. But like, he looks like the trophy could be made of styrofoam and it would feel the same good. Like, is he gonna really put that in his trophy case? Is he gonna put that with all of his all-star appearances and all NBA awards and all that? Like, is that what he's gonna do? How do you even become the all-star MVP? Nobody's playing defense, so it's like everybody basically is good. Like, it's just you're letting guys just go right past. Like, and I've heard some people say something like, well, you know how you fix it? You just give them extra money. You just pay them, $5 million extra if they win. It's like, well, what's an extra $5, $10, $15, $20 million to guys getting paid, $40 million a year? I mean, how much does Damian Lillard make? Damian Lillard contract. Damian Lillard on Spot Track, he is this season making $45 million. He's making $45 million. If you say, oh, well, if you win the All-Star MVP, you get $5 million more. Who cares? That's negligible. That's chump change. That's nothing. That's how much he pays for his cars. I mean, there's just there's no, you could say oh, well, they'll go harder if you give them more money. And then the other option is to line it up with some sort of competitive balance. Like, I know in baseball they used to do home field advantage in the World Series was determined whether or not the American League or the National League won the All-Star game. And I think that's stupid because the teams involved in the World Series aren't necessarily going to be involved in the All-Star game. I mean, presumably you'll have some guys on the All-Star team if you're going to the World Series, but not necessarily. You're not going to have a bunch of guys all at once. And what are they supposed to do? What if they're not on the field? It's just, to me, it's like you can't give that kind of a reward. But I also think the financial reward is not really going to do anything. So the only options are to sort of change your attitude if you're a player and kind of try to have fun with it and try to just actually try, just force yourself to try, which is not a viable option, or just don't have it. Just get rid of it. You can have all-stars. You can have, these are the top players at this point in the season, or maybe do it at the end of the year. Giannis is an all-star. LeBron James is an all-star at the end of the year, and it's voted on by the fans, voted on by the media. I don't know, whatever. But clearly, as far as the All-Star game goes, it's dead. It's put it away with, the dodo bird and the dinosaurs. It's just a figment of the past. And I simply cannot get over this score. I'm sorry. I 211 points? When I saw that final score, mouth agape. I was shocked. And I'm usually not shocked by these sorts of things. Usually it's like, yeah, whatever. Okay, yeah. Scored like 50 points in the Pro Bowl or 100 or 10 to 15 in the All-Star. But it's like, again, why would you try when there's no incentive to and there's no disincentive to if you don't try? Because everybody already knows you're good. You're just going to risk injuring yourself if you try too hard. And it's just the state of it all to me is unfortunate. But it doesn't seem winnable. It seems like the only option, other than if there's just a change in the overall attitude of players. If players just decide one day that actually we owe it to the fans, we owe it to our teams, we owe it to the league itself, we owe it to ourselves to not just embarrass ourselves on a national stage. But I don't really see why that's going to happen because I don't think they see it as embarrassing. I don't think it is embarrassing exactly, other than like you look at the past All-Star games, you look at the past slam dunk competition, you look at the past, like the only thing worthwhile at this point is a 3-point contest, but I don't even like the 3-point contest that much. Like the slam dunk contest is so much more interesting. And the other thing I want to just point out, I heard a lot of people saying, oh, well, what are they going to do? Well, you've seen every kind of, windmill and jumping over. It's like, get creative. I mean, look at any of the montage. Look up on YouTube any of the montages of the best All-Star game or All-Star weekend dunk contest, and you will find something you either forgot about or something you wouldn't even consider. I mean, I saw one of these montages, guys dunking on 2 different nets at the same time. Like, okay, you want to say, well, you can't do 2 different. Figure it out. These are professional athletes. They have agents. They have some people that they could look to for guidance. And it's still entertaining. And I want to see the actual players that I'm interested in doing it. I want to see LeBron James. I want to see Giannis. I want to see Jokic. I want to see, well, maybe I don't want to see Jokic. He's not that athletic. But I want to see these big name superstar, guys that make the money in the league. I want to see them do it. Other options that I've heard about, maybe you have something like baseball where you have one player from each team, but not a huge fan of that because then it's like, well, if your team sucks and you have absolutely nobody, you're basically just putting somebody out there, as a like it doesn't even feel like they're really an all-star. It feels like, oh, well, the Pistons, they got to have a player. I don't know. Cade, I guess, or Ivy, Durant, do you want to be the all-star rep? Sure, why not? So, yeah, it just, it seems to me that these all-star games in the MLB, Pro Bowl in the NFL, and the NHL, and especially in the NBA, the NBA seems the most evident to me because of the kind of iconicness of things like the dunk contest and the 3-point contest, and even they brought back the East and West as the teams, and maybe they thought that would, bring some level of, competitiveness as opposed to just the team captains. You had Team Giannis, Team LeBron, or Team Durant, Team LeBron, and Team LeBron and Team Joe Schmo. I don't know. It just seems like a dead thing, and maybe that's just why. Maybe that's what it is. There's no bringing it back, so you might as well just say, you know what, All-Star break will just be where, players have a little ceremony for having a great first half. Maybe they get a $500,000 bonus for being voted an All-Star, and then you move along. Because that's the other thing, is that a lot of these are just or a lot of these are just fan voted. Like the MLB All-Star game is just fan voted, which I think is ridiculous. And the Pro Bowl for the NFL is also fan voted. It's like, why are we leaving these things up to a vote when these are supposed to be the best players, not just the most popular players? And I know sometimes those things coincide, but it is what it is. And I don't know that we're ever going to get back truly to where it once was. But as a lover of old school traditions, as a lover of, just a little bit of fun in the middle of the season, especially if your team stinks, if you're like me and the Pistons stink, and maybe you can have something with the All-Star break where, you don't really have an egg in the fight anyway, but you get to see, maybe the Rising Stars tournament or the All-Star game or the dunk contest or whatever. I don't even get that anymore. So that's wonderful. Just beautiful stuff. But it's enough rambling and raving about the All-Star game. Next thing I want to talk about is actually sports related. Or, well, I guess the All-Star game is sports related. But it's actually something that I actually want to talk about because one of the more popular clips of me on this channel is me yelling at Michigan State basketball for being a bunch of frauds. I stand by that video. However, Michigan State basketball has really turned it on as of late. First of all, they've won 8 of their last 10. Right now, they're winning against Iowa. They got a very slim lead here in the first half, but a lead nonetheless. Malik Hall, in that span in the last 10 games, has 16 points a game. Jaden Akins as well. He's been turning it on as of late. And my question about this team is it actually possible that they really can make a run? Given the fact that college basketball this year has been an absolute nonsense factor. Purdue, just this weekend, loses to Ohio State, who just fired their coach. And, we're just going to beat, the best team in the country. No big. We're going to beat the best team in the Big Ten. I believe they were ranked number 1 at that point. And I understand that college basketball is always that sport of anybody can win any game. I don't care I don't care if you're the worst ranked team in the country. If you play, if you just get hot, and it's anybody's game, is my entire point. But Michigan State, obviously, they started this season very high hopes. They were ranked number 4 going into the year, and then they lose in heartbreaking fashion in overtime to James Madison. One of the worst games I've ever had to watch. And then they just go on this span where, they win a couple of fake games there, just like I predicted. And then they lose to Duke, and they lose to Wisconsin, and they lose to Nebraska, and you're like, all right, here we go. Here we go again. Michigan State's going to have another awful year where they may not even make the tournament. And they beat Baylor. And you're like, oh, so that's the team we were looking for. Baylor just a couple of years removed from a national championship. Obviously a very, very successful program. Still, I believe, at the time they were ranked number 6. I don't know where they are right now. Then they go and they beat a bunch of random teams. They beat some team called Indiana State. And Indiana State is actually having a pretty good year this year, which is weird. Then they go and they beat Penn State and they lose to Northwestern because I don't know what Northwestern has on us. The past few years Northwestern has beaten us every year, especially on the road. I don't know how. And they lose to Illinois and you're like, oh boy, here we go. Big Ten play starts and Michigan State starts to fall apart. And then they go on another winning streak. They beat Rutgers, they beat Minnesota, they beat Maryland. You're like, oh, maybe we're back. And then they lose to Wisconsin, but then they beat Michigan. And you're like, hey, we beat our rival. That feels good. And then they beat Maryland. You're like, ah. And then they lose an absolute choke job of a game against Minnesota, a game that they absolutely should have won. I was furious with them that week. And then they go on another win streak, and then we're here. They beat Illinois, a number 10 ranked team in the country at the time they played them. They beat Penn State on the road. They beat Michigan on the road. Rivalry game, a close game. They held Michigan to no points in the final 7 minutes of the game or something like that. Their defense just absolutely, and Michigan, that's a whole other. You guys had your flowers in the national championship game in football, but my goodness, Michigan is one of the worst basketball programs in the country. I take great joy in it. I hope Michigan loses I hope they never win another basketball game. But right now they're losing to Illinois. Now they're losing to Iowa. Michigan State is set up, looking at their schedule, looking at the rest of it, and I don't know, assuming they can come back and win this game, it's still very early, down just 2, or down 3, I should say. 24-21 right now is where the score is at. But they have Iowa at home here. Maybe they can win this game. They got Ohio State on Sunday. They have Their toughest game to go is going to be on the road against Purdue in a couple of weeks here. Or not a couple of weeks. Not this Saturday, a week from this Saturday. Then they get Northwestern at home. Then they go on the road to Indiana, and then you're on to the Big Ten tournament. I don't know that they're going to live up to that number 4 ranked team expectations. And frankly, the way they're playing this game right now against Iowa, I got a feeling we're going to be in for a little bit of disappointment come March. However, they have the makings of a team that could, in theory, go a little bit farther than I think myself and maybe other people give them credit for when you just look at the raw numbers. They have a lot of high quality guard play in Malik Hall, in Walker, in Akins, and Hogan. Or wait, is Hall might be a power forward. I don't remember what position he plays. Hold on. Now I gotta look that up. Hall is not is he a guard? No. He's too big to be a guard. Watch him actually be a guard. No, he's a forward. Okay. I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. But you have high level guard play from Hogard, from Walker, and from Akins. You got 3 vet guards. Vets as in upperclassmen. You even have some young guys stepping up, playing some decent ball. You got Trey Holloman playing all right. You have what's his name? Carson Cooper, who looks like he's starting to turn things around a little bit as a center because Madi Sissoko is less than ideal. We'll just put it that way. Obviously, we already talked about Malik Hall, Cohen Carr. He can't make a jump shot to save his life, but hey, he's a lot of fun. He can dunk. He can get the blocks. That's about it. He doesn't really do much else. But yeah, they're starting to get Xavier Booker involved a little bit more. I'm just saying, if they can go out the rest of this year, they have just 5 games left in the season. If they can go out, if they can win 4 out of 5, they'll have my attention. If they can win 5 out of 5, then they'll really have my attention. Even if they win 3 out of 5, let's say they win. Let's say they win all the games at home, right? They go undefeated at home down the stretch, and they lose the 2 games on the road, which not ideal, but either way, I can at least understand it, especially the way teams have played at home and on the road before. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that game. That was a high-scoring game. Jeez, 112 to 106. I guess it went to overtime still. Either way, my whole diatribe here is that I'm cautiously optimistic about Michigan State basketball right now. Now, right now, they're losing this game. Hopefully, they can pull the comeback off. I don't doubt that they could. Although Walker just missed a jump shot, and it looks like there's going to be out of bounds, so Michigan State's going to keep the ball. But it's the more that I think about it, the more that I'm like, well, college basketball is really bad this year. Not as in like the quality of the games are bad. Although, I mean, I've watched pretty much only Michigan State basketball, and so I might be a little biased in that. As far as the teams, there's like UConn and there's everybody else. I don't even trust Purdue. And Purdue is apparently having a really good year. I really don't. It's like if UConn can get eliminated, then basically it's anybody's game. Meanwhile, Xavier Booker just got an M1, so that's good to see. So it used to be that every 4 years for Michigan State, you'd make the Final Four. I mean, you can go back, you can look at their program record. It's like 2016, or I might be wrong on the years. 2018, 2014, 2010. You just go back years and years, and every time you'd have a Final Four run. And I don't think that any one of these players on Michigan State are NBA caliber players. I really don't. I don't think Carson Cooper's an NBA player. I don't think our best player, Tyson Walker, I don't think he's an NBA player. But it's the fact that they're all playing sort of in tandem. When Walker has a bad game, Jaden Akins steps up. When Akins has a bad game, Hogard steps up. When Hogard has a bad game, Walker steps up. When Hall has a bad game, I don't know, Carson Cooper has a great game. I don't know. Somebody steps up. And, the more that you see this team get hot, and it's Tom Izzo, and Tom Izzo teams play better down the stretch, or at least in theory they're supposed to, the more that it becomes a little bit more realistic that they could do something here in the tournament. I didn't expect them to make the Sweet 16 last year. And in theory, this was supposed to be a better team than the team last year. More experienced. Certainly more drive from guys like Malik Hall, like Tyson Walker, who know it's their final chance to get a Final Four run here at Michigan State. So, I don't know. Something to keep an eye out for. Like I said, slow news week. What do you want from me? We're talking college basketball on a Tuesday evening. What do you want from me? Anyways, this is going to be definitely a shorter show, that's for sure. Anyways, we're going to take a look here in the realm of hockey. We're going to transition here really quick. Red Wings. They just finished their 4-game road trip. I believe I said I really wanted them to win 3 out of 4. They didn't. They lost 2. They lost the opening games. Lost the Oilers 8-4. Lost to the Canucks in a blowout 4-1. I guess the Oilers game was a blowout too. But then they bounced back. They beat Calgary 5-0. Big shutout win there. They needed that over the weekend. And then yesterday they had a thriller of a game against Seattle going into overtime. Ben Sherratt with the game winner. You had Patrick Kane get his 800th assist as well. So right now, where do the Wings stand in the standings? Let's take a look really quick here. Currently, they are 4 points ahead of the New Jersey Devils for the second wild card spot. So they're still sitting in the playoffs despite a little bit of struggles on the road here. They have played 1 extra game over the Devils. I don't know if the Devils are playing tonight, though. And a look ahead at the rest of their schedule here for this upcoming week. They have a couple of days off here, including today. Then they get a couple of home games. They got the Colorado Avalanche at home. That's going to be a tough game. The Avs have been – they're the Avs. They're a very good team. McKinnon, Makar, pick your poison. Very, very good team in Colorado. But they're going to be coming to our house. They're going to be coming to the Joe. To the Joe? To the Joe. Yeah, they're coming to the Joe. It's going to be nothing but rubble. They're going to be coming to the LCA. Then on Saturday, they got the noon game against the St. Louis Blues, followed by a Sunday evening game on the road against Chicago, and then finally ending on next Tuesday, a week from now, at home against the Capitals. And they got one more game here in the month of February. But, look, it's been a tougher month of February, or you go into the month, tough-looking schedule, but right now, they're 3-2. They're 3-2 on the month, which, you really can't ask for that much more, given the fact that, they easily could have lost to the Canucks. They certainly could have lost to Seattle. Obviously, they lose the games to the Oilers and to Vancouver on the road. But, we're sitting here late into February where the Wings have a multi-game hold on a playoff spot. And again, you got guys like Lucas Raymond being factors. Moritz Seider had a great weekend. You had Dylan Larkin still being that guy. Like, the more that you think about it, and I believe it was Urinating Tree pointed this out in his recap video, the bad month of December pretty much coincides with Dylan Larkin going down. Like, Dylan Larkin gets hurt, a couple of weeks go by, and they just go on this really poor skid of losing and just not scoring. Dylan Larkin comes back in January, and we're right back to winning ways. Like, we've at this point, now obviously I don't know how the month of February is going to end. Hopefully we can keep ourselves out of the losing streaks, because really when you're just the second wild card team, you can't afford to go on any sorts of losing streaks. If we can go into the month of March in the wild card solidly, like multiple games in the wild card. And given the fact that our toughest game for the rest of this month is going to be Colorado, and the rest of the teams that we play are all outside of the playoffs, in the case of Chicago, one of the worst teams in the NHL this year, I really think it's a very, not only a possibility, but it should be the result is that we are in the wild card come March 1st. And March is really where you get down the stretch. It's the final full month of regular season hockey. And that is where men and boys are separated in the NHL. That's for darn old sure. But right now the Wings are they're playing out of their mind. I gotta give a little bit of shout outs to some of the guys here. DeBrincat, he's been one of the great acquisitions. I know he's not he's probably not going to be scoring 40 goals this season. He's only got 19 on the year, but he's still got 47 points. And to be fair, he still has some time to really get hot here down the stretch for the rest of February, March, and then a little bit of April there. But I'm really mostly impressed with Lucas Raymond. The acquisition of Daniel Sprong and JT Compher and Shane Gostisbehere for this offense has been absolutely astronomical. Steve Yzerman has done a great thing. And the fact that I believe here in the coming weeks, we will be getting to the NHL trade deadline. I believe it's March the 2nd is the trade deadline. Are the Red Wings going to be in the buyer's market for the first time in what seems like decades at this point, where the Wings are actually going to be looking to add talent at the trade deadline as opposed to selling off? I really hope so. I mean, you never know in the NHL. If we just start losing a bunch of games, Steve Yzerman has not been afraid to sell at the deadline just to continue to build up assets. But it seems to me that, with the addition of Patrick Kane, with the trading for Alex DeBrincat, it seems to me that Steve Yzerman has eyes for making the playoffs this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we just stand pat, but I certainly don't think we're going to be selling. And that is progress in and of itself. It's great to see that our teams here in Detroit are actually making the turnarounds, actually playing competently. Yeah, the Lions obviously go to the playoffs, win the division, get to the NFC Championship game. And now you have the Red Wings have a chance to end their playoff drought of almost 10 years. Last time they were in the playoffs was 2016. Meanwhile, the Pistons are, well, we don't want to talk about that. And we'll see where the Tigers end up as spring training starts this weekend. But that's all I wanted to say on that. Boy, this is going to be a really short show. I said it was a slow news week. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. But finally, wanted to get this in, mix this in. A little bit of NFL, free agency stuff. Jordan Schultz tweets out a couple of days ago here, or actually yesterday, quote, "The Buccaneers had a soft deadline today, February the 19th, to get an extension done with Pro Bowl wide receiver Mike Evans. But both sides remain far apart, sources say. Tampa Bay is set to take on $7.4 million in 2024 dead money by not getting a deal done today." And blah, blah, blah. Okay, so seems like Mike Evans might end up going to free agency, which to me, if I'm a Buccaneers fan, I'm furious. This guy should be a Buccaneer for life. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's certainly one of the best wide receivers in the history of the Buccaneers. The fact that this guy, who was Baker Mayfield's wide receiver one, who was his best weapon, certainly helped Baker Mayfield revive his career in Tampa Bay, they should not be letting this guy go. However, assuming he does end up going, who are some teams that could be interested? Well, I want to pull up Tankathon just because it's a good way to gauge what some teams' needs are just looking at mock drafts. Think of a team maybe like the Patriots, okay? Probably drafting a quarterback. Wouldn't be a bad idea to add one of the best wide receivers to his weapon room, help him out, help him develop. Maybe the Cardinals, right? They're already, right here on the mock draft, it has them adding Marvin Harrison Jr. They're a team devoid of talent on the offensive side. If they're going to run it with Kyler Murray, why not give him a veteran wide receiver like Mike Evans? Do you want to do the Chargers get in on this? They've already got an allure of weapons, but Mike Williams seems to be not very reliable. We might want to switch Mike Williams out with Mike Evans, right? Do the Titans enter that conversation? I don't know if they'll still have DeAndre Hopkins next year, but Hopkins is certainly walked. The only thing that I will say, though, about Evans is he is probably past his prime, right? He's a little older. It's a little more. He's got the experience. You don't want to end up like Adam Thielen on the Panthers, is what I'm trying to get at. So I do think, regardless of whether he stays in Tampa Bay or whether he, goes into free agency, goes to another team, he's got to get paid. And he will deserve basically every penny of it. Like he will deserve the money that he gets because he is still one of the best wide receivers in the league, despite the fact that he has struggled a little bit as of late. I just don't see how Tampa Bay is going to let a guy like this go. He's too fun. It's similar to me with when there's talks about Justin Jefferson in free agency. It's like there's no way that a guy like that is going to just walk, right? They would have traded it if that was what they were going to do. Or maybe they got a little too high on their own supply. They thought maybe they could make a deep playoff run. Obviously, the Lions shut that down. But now you're sort of in no man's land where you can't trade him, obviously, because he's a free agent. And you're not sure if you really want to sign him because, like I said, you don't know if you really have, you don't seem all that confident. Like if you're not just automatically signing him, to me that tells me you're actually not all that confident in the roster you have, that you're thinking about trying to tear it down a little bit, trying to start over, seeing that you couldn't get it done with Baker Mayfield and this group of wideouts, trying something else. But I don't see an avenue where they end up better for letting him go. And I don't see an avenue where a team that lets him in is worse. Other than the situations where you have teams that have far more problems than just wide receiver, and like something like the Titans when they added DeAndre Hopkins, where I was like, okay, I don't even know what your quarterback is. Like, why are you doing this? Why is this your offseason move? Like a team that is probably off the radar for something like this. Honestly, I mentioned the Chargers, probably the Chargers. The Lions, I don't think they should be involved in the Mike Evans sweepstakes. Honestly, in a weird way, maybe the Chiefs go after him. Obviously, the reigning Super Bowl champion Chiefs, reigning 2-time Super Bowl champion Chiefs, they could use a wide receiver. They could use a vet in that room, help the development of Rashee Rice, give him more room there. But I don't know. It just seems to me that there's a lot of teams that could use a weapon like him, and I don't know how you let a guy like that go. I don't know. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But that is actually it. This is a very short show. We're under an hour here, and we've hit everything. This is a short week, or a short news week, I should say. It was regular. All weeks are the same length, guys. They don't get longer or shorter. They maintain the length. 7 days, all the time, every day. Doesn't change. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about this week. You had the All-Star break. Wasn't anything. Isaiah Stewart is going to court. I could talk about that. There's no news there. I don't know what's going on. So, but hey, right now Michigan State is not looking good against Iowa, so that's super. But with that, we're going to wrap up the show. Don't have a whole lot to talk about this week. So maybe next week we'll have some bigger news. Spring training will have started, so maybe something interesting will happen in MLB and baseball. Maybe some of these big-name free agents will get signed. We'll have something to talk about there. But as it stands right now, we got nothing. So if you enjoyed, please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe button. I appreciate y'all for stopping by, listening in, hanging out. Always a good time. And if nothing else, hope you have a great rest of your evening. And I will talk to you guys next week. See you later, everybody. Goodbye.